You are dangerously behind, but not in the way your fear has been telling you. You are not behind because God forgot you. You are not behind because your promise expired. You are not behind because everyone else is better, faster, more blessed, more worthy, or more loved than you. You are behind in one place that matters more than all the others. You are behind in order. Something that should have been first has been pushed to the back of your life. Something God has been quietly pointing to has been buried under pressure, noise, comparison, exhaustion, and delay. And even if you have not known how to explain it, your spirit has felt it. That is why you feel tired in a way sleep does not fix. That is why you can finish tasks and still feel unfinished inside. That is why you can be busy all day and still feel like you did not touch the thing that actually mattered. That is why you can look calm on the outside, but inside, something keeps whispering, I cannot keep living like this. This is not random. You did not arrive at this message by accident. Something in you was looking for an answer before your mind knew how to ask the question. Something higher interrupted your ordinary rhythm. Not to scare you, not to shame you, and not to make you feel condemned, but to bring you back before another season slips through your hands while your attention is scattered. Because there is a difference between being delayed and being out of order. Delay can form you. Delay can protect you. Delay can mature you. But disorder drains you. Disorder confuses you. Disorder makes you feel like you are running hard, but never arriving anywhere. And that is the place God is touching right now. Not your worth, not your destiny, not your identity, your order. So, before you keep trying to fix your entire life at once, before you keep adding more pressure to your mind, before you keep comparing your chapter to someone else's harvest, I need you to hear this clearly. God is not asking you to do everything right now. He is asking you to return to the first thing. The first thing, the thing you keep postponing because it feels too simple. The thing you keep avoiding because it feels too honest. The thing you keep pushing away because once you face it, you know something else will have to change. And this is why the message feels urgent. Not because God is threatening you, not because heaven is angry with you, not because your destiny is hanging by a thread and one wrong move will destroy everything. No, this is urgent because mercy sometimes comes as an interruption. Mercy sometimes sounds like, stop. Mercy sometimes sounds like, put that down. Mercy sometimes sounds like, watch this first, before you give your energy to everything else again. Because if the first thing remains buried, everything else will continue feeling heavier than it should. You may already know what this means. There is something God has been bringing back to your awareness again and again. Maybe it comes to you in the quiet moments before sleep. Maybe it comes while you are driving and your mind finally stops pretending. Maybe it comes when you see someone else moving forward and you feel that ache in your chest, not because you hate them, but because something in you remembers that you were created for more than survival. Maybe it comes as one simple instruction: forgive, rest, focus, return, finish, leave, begin, tell the truth, stop explaining, protect your peace, let that person go, stop giving first place to what God never asked you to carry. It may not sound dramatic, but the first instruction often does not arrive with thunder. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet knowing that will not leave you alone. And when you ignore it long enough, your life may still function, but your spirit starts to feel crowded. You wake up, and before your feet even touch the ground, your mind is already running. This person needs something. That bill needs attention. That dream feels far away. That mistake still hurts. That opportunity feels late. That relationship is confusing. That fear keeps coming back. And somewhere underneath all of it, the voice of God is not always loud, but it is steady. Come back to the first thing. Chosen one. This is why you feel behind. Not because nothing is happening. Something is happening. God is trying to reorder you before He releases more to you. And that may not be the answer your fear wanted, but it is the answer your spirit needs. Because if God gave you more while your inner life was still scattered, the blessing could become a burden. The open door could become another source of anxiety. The opportunity could expose the cracks in your foundation instead of revealing the strength of your preparation. So this moment is not a delay. This is protection. This is God touching the foundation before the height is added. This is God saying, before you build higher, come lower. Before you run faster, come back to stillness. Before you ask me for more, let me restore the order that will help you carry more. And I know that may be hard to receive, because you have already been hard on yourself. You have already asked yourself why you are not further. You have already looked at your age, your finances, your relationships, your calling, your unfinished plans, your old mistakes, and wondered if you should have been somewhere else by now. You have already had moments where you felt embarrassed by your own pace. You have already smiled in conversations while quietly feeling like you were falling behind in life. You have already told people, I am okay, while silently wondering why your soul feels so tired. So let this be said with gentleness. You do not need more shame. Shame has never brought you into alignment. Shame has only made you hide. Shame has made you perform strength while avoiding honesty. Shame has made you compare yourself to people who do not know what God has been forming in the hidden places of your life. God is not using shame to call you back. He is using clarity. And clarity may feel sharp at first, but it does not wound you to destroy you. It cuts away what has been covering the truth. The truth is this: you are not behind in value. You are not behind in love. You are not behind in God's awareness. You are behind in returning to what was first. And once the first thing returns to first place, the pressure will begin to change. Not because every problem disappears overnight. Not because every door opens immediately. Not because life suddenly becomes easy. But because order creates peace. Order creates clarity. Order creates strength. Order creates the inner room where you can hear again. And that is what has been missing. Not intelligence, not potential, not calling, not ability. You have those. You have always had those. The problem is that your attention has been divided among too many things that were never supposed to lead you. You have been listening to fear like it has authority. You have been listening to comparison like it has wisdom. You have been listening to pressure like it is prophecy. You have been listening to old voices that only know the version of you that survived, not the version of you God is forming now. And because all of those voices have been loud, the first thing has become quiet. But quiet does not mean powerless. The first thing may be quiet, but it is connected to everything. It is connected to your peace. It is connected to your next step. It is connected to your obedience. It is connected to the door you keep praying for. It is connected to the clarity you keep asking God to give you. This is why you cannot keep treating it like a small thing. The thing you keep delaying may be the thing holding the order of your next season. And this is why I want you to stay with this until the end. Not because you need another long message in your life, but because this is going to give language to what you have been feeling. You are going to understand the difference between being late and being out of order. You are going to see the signs that your spirit has been trying to show you. You are going to learn what the first thing really is, what you must drop, and how to come back into divine order without panic, without shame, and without forcing your life to look like someone else's. By the end, you will not just feel warned, you will feel clear. And clarity is what you have been asking for. Now listen closely. There are three kinds of being behind. The first kind is the kind the world measures. The world measures time. The world says you should have had this by now. You should have reached that by now. You should be married by now. You should be healed by now. You should be richer by now. You should be more confident by now. You should be more successful by now. You should have figured out your purpose by now. The world loves clocks. It loves numbers. It loves public proof. It loves visible results. It loves making you feel like your life is a race, and if someone else reaches something before you, then you have somehow lost. But the world does not know what God is forming in you. The world can see a platform, but it cannot see preparation. The world can see a wedding, but it cannot see whether the heart is healed. The world can see money, but it cannot see whether the soul is free. The world can see speed, but it cannot see alignment. So if you use the world's timeline to judge your spiritual life, you will always feel accused. You will always feel late. You will always feel like you have to rush to prove something. And rushed people often make choices from fear, not faith. They enter doors God did not open. They cling to people God was trying to remove. They accept burdens that look important but were never assigned. They confuse movement with progress. They confuse pressure with purpose. They confuse being busy with being obedient. Chosen one, the world's clock is not your God. Do not give it that kind of power. The second kind of being behind is being behind in focus. This one is more subtle. You may not look behind on the outside. You may be doing things. You may be answering messages. You may be taking care of responsibilities. You may be showing up for people. You may be getting through the day. You may even look productive. But inside, your focus is fractured. Your attention is scattered across too many open doors, too many emotional demands, too many unfinished thoughts, too many fears about the future, too many old conversations you keep replaying, too many people you keep trying to understand, too many outcomes you keep trying to control. And when your focus is broken, your spirit starts feeling behind even if your schedule is full. Because your calling does not only need your activity, it needs your attention. There are things God can only speak clearly into a life that has become quiet enough to receive them. And quiet does not always mean silence around you. Sometimes quiet means one voice has become first inside you. God's voice, not the voice of panic, not the voice of comparison, not the voice of the person who disappointed you, not the voice of the old version of you who learned to survive by expecting the worst. God's voice. When that voice is no longer first, even a full life can feel empty. Even a busy day can feel wasted. Even progress can feel strangely unsatisfying. Because something inside knows you are moving, but not centered. That is being behind in focus. And for many chosen ones, this is where the exhaustion is coming from. You are not tired because you are weak. You are tired because too many things have been pulling on your inner attention. You have been living with your mind in 10 rooms at once. One part of you is grieving. One part of you is planning. One part of you is defending yourself. One part of you is comparing. One part of you is hoping. One part of you is afraid. One part of you is waiting for God. One part of you is trying to prove you are not behind. And God is calling all those scattered parts back to one place. Back to order. Back to the first thing. The third kind of being behind is being behind in obedience. And this is the one we must talk about with humility. Because obedience is not always dramatic. Sometimes obedience is not moving to another city, starting a giant mission, making a huge announcement, or doing something that everyone can see. Sometimes obedience is answering the quiet instruction you have minimized. Sometimes obedience is resting when your ego wants to perform. Sometimes obedience is creating distance when your guilt wants to keep explaining. Sometimes obedience is finishing the small thing you keep abandoning. Sometimes obedience is forgiving someone without giving them access again. Sometimes obedience is admitting that your current pace is not sustainable. Sometimes obedience is saying, God, I have been trying to carry what you never gave me. And this is where the warning becomes holy. Because there is a point where delay is no longer about waiting for God. Sometimes delay becomes you waiting for courage. You waiting for perfect conditions. You waiting for certainty. You waiting for everyone to understand. You waiting to feel ready. You waiting until obedience becomes comfortable. But obedience rarely feels comfortable at the beginning. It often feels like releasing control. It often feels like stepping away from noise. It often feels like disappointing expectations that were never holy. It often feels like choosing the quiet thing before the impressive thing, and that is why many people miss it. They are looking for a dramatic sign, while God is asking for a simple yes. But simple does not mean small. A simple yes can reorder an entire life. A simple yes can close the door that has been draining you. A simple yes can restore the peace you thought you lost forever. A simple yes can bring your focus back. A simple yes can make the next instruction clear. This is why being behind in obedience is dangerous. Not because God stops loving you, He does not. Not because one delay destroys your destiny. It does not. But because ignored instruction creates inner heaviness. The more you avoid what God has made clear, the more complicated everything else becomes. You start asking for new answers while neglecting the old one. You start asking for peace while holding on to the very thing disturbing it. You start asking for direction while refusing the first step. And God, in His mercy, does not always keep adding information to a life that is avoiding the instruction already given. Sometimes heaven becomes quiet, not because God is absent, but because the next thing is waiting on the first thing. That is why this message had to interrupt you. Not to overwhelm you, to simplify you, not to condemn you, to call you back, not to tell you that you failed, to show you where order must return. Now, there are signs that this is happening in you. You may have been experiencing them without realizing what they meant. The first sign is the exhaustion that does not match your activity. You may not have done enough to explain how tired you feel. You may wake up tired. You may rest and still feel heavy. You may have moments where your body is present, but your spirit feels like it is carrying invisible weight. This is not always about physical tiredness. Sometimes it is the fatigue of living out of order for too long. It is the fatigue of saying yes when your spirit knows something should be no. It is the fatigue of trying to keep peace with people while losing peace with God. It is the fatigue of managing appearances while avoiding the truth. It is the fatigue of being pulled in directions that are loud but not assigned. The second sign is that small things feel strangely overwhelming. A message feels heavy. A decision feels bigger than it should. A simple responsibility feels like one more stone on your chest. You may wonder why you cannot just handle things like you used to. But sometimes the issue is not the size of the task. Sometimes the issue is the amount of disorder already living underneath it. When the inside is crowded, even small things feel like too much. The third sign is that you keep postponing the same inner conversation. You know there is something you need to face. Not necessarily something dramatic. Maybe it is a decision. Maybe it is a boundary. Maybe it is a truth. Maybe it is a grief. Maybe it is a calling. Maybe it is a habit. Maybe it is a relationship that has been slowly pulling you away from who you are becoming. But every time it comes up, you push it away. Later, not now, when I feel stronger, when things calm down, when I understand more, when I have proof, when I am not so tired. But later keeps becoming heavier, because the first thing does not disappear when ignored. It waits, and the longer it waits, the louder your discomfort becomes. The fourth sign is that old environments feel tighter than before. Conversations that used to feel normal now drain you. Places that used to feel familiar now feel strangely small. Patterns you used to tolerate now feel almost painful. You may think you are becoming impatient, difficult, or too sensitive. But what if your spirit is not becoming weaker? What if your spirit is becoming more honest? What if the discomfort is not rebellion? What if it is recognition? Sometimes God allows old spaces to become uncomfortable because comfort would keep you there too long. Sometimes what used to fit starts feeling tight because you are not being punished. You are outgrowing it. The fifth sign is that you feel a repeated pull back to simplicity. You may feel drawn to silence, drawn to clean spaces, drawn to fewer conversations, drawn to deeper prayer, drawn to stop explaining yourself, drawn to remove distractions, drawn to return to something basic that you abandoned while trying to survive. This pull is not emptiness. It is order calling you. It is the first thing rising again. It is God showing you that the next level of your life may not begin with adding more, but with removing what has been making your spirit crowded. The sixth sign is that you keep sensing a quiet urgency, but you cannot fully explain it. Not panic, not doom, not fear, a holy pressure, a sense that something needs to be addressed, a sense that you cannot keep drifting, a sense that your next season requires a cleaner yes than your last one. And this is where many people make a mistake. They feel urgency, so they rush. But the urgency is not always telling you to run. Sometimes the urgency is telling you to stop running in the wrong direction. Sometimes the urgency is saying, pause before you answer. Pause before you agree. Pause before you chase. Pause before you build. Pause before you let fear decide what faith should handle. This is a holy pause, a protective pause, a pause that can save you from wasting strength on what was never first. Chosen one, if these signs are touching something in you, do not turn this into shame. Let it become clarity. You are not being exposed to be humiliated. You are being shown the pattern so you can be free from it. God corrects what He intends to continue. He prunes what He intends to make fruitful. He reorders what He intends to fill. He slows what He intends to strengthen. And right now, the slowing may be frustrating, but it is not meaningless. Because a life out of order cannot carry overflow well. A scattered mind cannot steward a sacred assignment well. A heart divided by comparison cannot hear divine timing clearly. A person who is always reacting to pressure will struggle to recognize peace when it arrives. So God is not merely trying to help you catch up. He is trying to bring you back into alignment. There is a version of you that does not move from panic. There is a version of you that does not need to prove anything to people who never understood your path. There is a version of you that can say no without collapsing into guilt. There is a version of you that can hear God's instruction and obey it before fear talks you out of it. There is a version of you that understands that being hidden is not the same as being forgotten. There is a version of you that knows how to move when it is time and how to wait without losing yourself when it is not. That version is not far away. That version is being called forward through order. But order will require honesty. And honesty begins here. You have to admit that some of what you call responsibility is actually distraction. You have to admit that some of what you call preparation is actually fear. You have to admit that some of what you call waiting is actually avoidance. You have to admit that some of what you call loyalty is actually bondage to expectations God did not place on you. You have to admit that some of what you call being realistic is actually agreement with an old version of yourself. This is not easy, but it is freeing, because once you name what has been stealing your order, it loses some of its power. And I sense this strongly. God is not asking you to throw your whole life away. He is not asking you to panic. He is not asking you to make reckless decisions. He is asking you to stop giving first place to second things. Second things are not always evil. That is what makes this difficult. Some second things are good. Some second things are useful. Some second things are people you love. Some second things are responsibilities that matter. Some second things are dreams that may have a place later. But when a second thing takes the first place, even a good thing can become disorder. And disorder always has a cost. It costs peace. It costs clarity. It costs energy. It costs sensitivity. It costs discernment. It costs the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are walking in step with God. This is why the message says, drop everything and watch this first. Not because everything in your life is worthless, but because everything must be reordered around what God is making first. The first thing is not always the loudest thing. The first thing is not always the most urgent thing. The first thing is not always the thing other people understand. The first thing is the thing that brings the rest of your life back under God's order. When that returns, your spirit will know. You may not have all the answers, but something inside will become steadier. You may still have responsibilities, but they will not own you the same way. You may still have a long road, but you will stop feeling lost on it. You may still be waiting, but waiting will not feel like abandonment. Because order changes the weight of a season, the same season that crushed you in disorder can form you in alignment. The same delay that made you panic can produce maturity when you stop comparing. The same hiddenness that felt like rejection can become protection when you understand what God is building. The same silence that felt like absence can become instruction when your inner room becomes quiet enough to hear. And this is where the first part of this message must land. You are not being called to catch up with everyone. You are being called to come back to God's order. There is a difference. Catching up makes you frantic. Coming back makes you focused. Catching up makes you compare. Coming back makes you listen. Catching up makes you resent your own pace. Coming back helps you honor your formation. Catching up makes you chase what looks successful. Coming back helps you choose what is assigned. And this is the shift that begins now. Not with a dramatic announcement. Not with proving yourself. Not with forcing a door. Not with trying to repair every area of your life in one night. It begins with one inner return. In your mind, see all the noise you have been carrying gathered like scattered papers in a storm. Every fear, every comparison, every false responsibility, every unfinished thought, every voice that has been trying to tell you who you are and how late you are. Now, without moving your body, imagine one steady hand placing those papers down on a table before God. You are not solving all of them right now. You are not explaining all of them right now. You are simply placing them down long enough to hear the first instruction again. And let this sentence rise inside you. The first thing belongs first. Let it settle. The first thing belongs first. Not because you are failing, because you are being reordered. Not because your life is over, because your life is being prepared for a weight you cannot carry in disorder. Not because God is far, because God is close enough to interrupt you before confusion becomes your normal. And if you feel resistance, that is okay. Resistance often shows up when order begins to return. Part of you may want to keep everything complicated because complication gives you an excuse to delay. Part of you may want to keep blaming time because blaming time feels easier than facing the instruction. Part of you may want to keep comparing because comparison distracts you from surrender. But your spirit knows. Something in you knows this is true. You do not need another year of scattered living. You do not need another season of giving your best attention to things that are not first. You do not need another cycle of being busy, tired, available to everyone, but absent from the one instruction God keeps repeating. You need order, holy order, quiet order, strong order, the kind of order that does not make your life smaller, but makes your yes cleaner. The kind of order that does not remove your purpose, but protects it. The kind of order that does not shame your delay, but redeems it. And in the next part, we have to go deeper. Because now that you understand you are not behind in worth, but behind in order, we must uncover what pulled you out of order in the first place. For some of you, it was comparison. For some of you, it was busyness wearing the mask of obedience. For some of you, it was fear pretending to be preparation. And for some of you, it was all three working together until your spirit became tired of living divided. But once you see the root, you can stop fighting the wrong battle. And that is where freedom begins. Because the root is what tells you where the real battle is. If you only fight the feeling of being behind, you will keep attacking yourself. You will keep pressuring yourself. You will keep trying to move faster while never asking why your spirit feels so divided. But when God reveals the root, He is not trying to embarrass you. He is trying to stop you from wasting strength on the wrong enemy. And for many chosen ones, the first thing that pulled them out of order was comparison. Not obvious jealousy, not hatred, not bitterness that you would openly admit. Something quieter, something more hidden, something that happens when you see someone else step into a season you have been praying for. And even though you want to be happy for them, something in your chest sinks. You see their progress, and suddenly your life feels smaller. You see their relationship, and suddenly your waiting feels louder. You see their confidence, and suddenly your insecurity begins speaking again. You see their open door, and suddenly the door in front of you feels closed. And because you are a chosen one, you may even feel guilty for feeling that way. You may tell yourself, I should not feel this. I should be more mature than this. I should be grateful. I should be stronger. I should not care. But God is not asking you to pretend you never felt the ache. He is asking you to stop letting the ache become your compass. Because the ache is not always evil. Sometimes the ache is simply showing you where you still need healing. Sometimes the ache is showing you where you quietly stopped trusting your own timeline. Sometimes the ache is showing you where someone else's blessing has become evidence against your future. That is where comparison becomes dangerous. Not when you notice someone else's progress, but when you turn their progress into a verdict over your life. When you see their harvest and decide your seed must have failed. When you see their marriage and decide your love story must be forgotten. When you see their success and decide your hidden years must be useless. When you see their confidence and decide your quietness must mean weakness. When you see their speed and decide your slower formation must mean rejection. Chosen one. Another person's fruit is not your clock. Another person's door is not your deadline. Another person's public blessing is not proof that God skipped your name. You have to stop letting what God is doing for someone else accuse what He is forming in you. Because comparison does not only make you feel behind. Comparison makes you impatient. And impatience makes you vulnerable. It makes you reach for things God never gave. It makes you say yes before peace confirms it. It makes you enter relationships because you are tired of waiting. It makes you copy paths that were never assigned to you. It makes you turn your calling into a competition. It makes you resent the hidden place where God is still strengthening your foundation. And this is the trap. Comparison does not always push you into obvious failure. Sometimes it pushes you into premature success. It pushes you into a door that looks like elevation but does not have grace on it. It pushes you into a room that flatters your ego but drains your spirit. It pushes you into a decision that proves something to people but disconnects you from peace. That is why God is correcting your order. Because if comparison becomes first, you will keep asking, how do I catch up? But if God becomes first, the question changes. You begin asking, what is assigned to me? Those are not the same question. How do I catch up? Comes from fear. What is assigned to me comes from alignment. How do I catch up makes you chase. What is assigned to me makes you listen. How do I catch up makes you resent time. What is assigned to me teaches you to honor timing. How do I catch up makes everyone else your measure. What is assigned to me brings God back to the center. And that is why the enemy of your peace is not always failure. Sometimes the enemy of your peace is measuring the wrong thing. You are measuring speed when God is measuring surrender. You are measuring visibility when God is measuring stability. You are measuring applause when God is measuring obedience. You are measuring how quickly things appear while God is measuring whether your inner life can carry what appears. You are not late because someone else arrived. You are not behind because someone else was seen. You are not forgotten because someone else was chosen for a moment you wanted. There is room in God's timing for your life too. But you must stop using someone else's chapter to interrupt your instruction. Feel that inside for a moment, not as a physical action, not as a task, just as an inner release. Imagine the person, the achievement, the relationship, the lifestyle, or the season you keep comparing yourself to. Do not fight the image. Do not shame yourself for seeing it. Just let it stand in front of you for one breath. Then imagine God gently moving that image to the side, not destroying it, not condemning it, simply removing it from the center of your vision. And now, in the center, imagine only one thing. Your path, not their path. Your instruction, not their instruction. Your timing, not their timing. Your assignment, not their applause. Let your spirit say this quietly: my path does not need to compete to be real. That is where order begins. Because comparison loses power when you stop letting it sit in the seat that belongs to God. But comparison is not the only thing that pulled you out of order. The second thing is more difficult to see, because it often looks responsible. It is busyness wearing the mask of obedience. And this one deceives many chosen ones, because you have a heart that wants to help. You notice needs. You feel people's pain. You sense tension in rooms. You can tell when someone is disappointed. You can feel when someone pulls away. You often carry more than you say. And because of that, you may have learned to measure your value by how available you are. If they need you, you answer. If they are upset, you explain. If they are struggling, you carry. If there is a problem, you step in. If there is silence, you fill it. If there is chaos, you try to fix it. And slowly, without realizing it, your life becomes full of things that feel urgent but are not always assigned. This is where you must be honest. Not every need is your assignment. Not every open door is God's direction. Not every request deserves your yes. Not every emotional reaction around you is your responsibility to manage. Not every burden that touches your heart is meant to be carried by your hands. This does not make you cold. This does not make you selfish. This does not make you less loving. It makes you ordered, and an unordered helper eventually becomes an exhausted one. A person who says yes to everything will eventually have no strength left for the thing God actually called them to build. A person who is always available to people may become unavailable to purpose. A person who never disappoints anyone may end up disappointing the instruction of God inside them. That is not because they are bad. It is because they never learned the difference between compassion and assignment. Compassion means you can care. Assignment means God has asked you to carry. Those are not always the same. You can care without taking over. You can love without losing order. You can pray without controlling. You can support without becoming the source. You can be kind without becoming endlessly available. You can be present without letting people rearrange your entire inner world. Chosen one, this is important. Some people are not attacking your calling. They are simply used to your disorder. They are used to you answering quickly. They are used to you explaining yourself. They are used to you absorbing tension. They are used to you bending. They are used to you being the one who makes everything easier for everyone else, even when it makes your own life heavier. So when God begins to bring you back into order, not everyone will celebrate it. Some people will call your peace distance. Some people will call your boundary pride. Some people will call your silence coldness. Some people will call your focus selfishness. Some people will call your obedience a change they do not like. But you must remember this. They may be reacting to losing access to a version of you that God is no longer asking you to maintain. That version of you was helpful, but exhausted, available, but scattered, kind, but resentful, loving, but depleted, strong for everyone, but weak inside from carrying what was never assigned. And God is not bringing you back into order so you can become cruel. He is bringing you back into order so your love can become clean. Love without resentment, service without self-abandonment, compassion without confusion, presence without losing yourself. This is one of the hardest lessons for a chosen one. You are not called to be empty so others can feel full. You are not called to be anxious so others can feel secure. You are not called to lose your first instruction because everyone else has a louder emergency. Sometimes the holiest thing you can do is stop, not because you do not care, but because you finally understand that obedience is not measured by exhaustion. If exhaustion were proof of obedience, many broken people would be the most obedient people on earth. But God does not simply want you tired. He wants you aligned. He does not simply want your activity. He wants your yes. He does not simply want you moving. He wants you moving in the direction He gave you. And this is where many chosen ones have been dangerously behind. They have been ahead in helping others, but behind in obeying the first thing. Ahead in responding to pressure, but behind in protecting peace. Ahead in managing everyone else's emotions, but behind in listening to God's instruction. Ahead in doing many good things, but behind in the one necessary thing. And that is why life feels so heavy. Because good things become heavy when they are out of order. Even love becomes heavy when it is not guided by wisdom. Even service becomes heavy when it is rooted in fear. Even generosity becomes heavy when it is driven by guilt. Even loyalty becomes heavy when it keeps you tied to what God is asking you to release. This is why you cannot simply ask, "Is this good?" You must ask, "Is this first? Is this assigned? Is this mine to carry? Is this producing peace or only maintaining an image? Is this obedience or anxiety dressed up as responsibility?" And you do not need to answer all of that out loud. Just let your spirit tell the truth internally. Think of one thing that has been demanding your attention, but not feeding your assignment. Think of one person, one situation, one fear, one obligation, or one pattern that keeps pulling you away from the first thing. Now imagine it standing at the door of your inner life, knocking loudly. Do not hate it. Do not fight it. Do not panic. Simply imagine yourself refusing to let loudness decide what gets first place. Let God answer the door. Let God decide what is yours. Let God decide what must wait. Let God decide what must leave. And let your spirit say this. Loud does not mean first. That sentence can protect you. Loud does not mean first. Urgent does not mean assigned. Needed does not mean called. Familiar does not mean holy. Heavy does not mean yours. This is how order begins to return, not through panic, through discernment. But there is still another root beneath this, because even after comparison is named, and even after false responsibility is exposed, many chosen ones still do not move. They understand the truth. They feel the conviction. They know something must change, but they freeze. And this is the third thing that pulled you out of order. Fear wearing the mask of preparation. This is one of the most subtle patterns because it sounds wise. It sounds careful. It sounds humble. It sounds responsible. It says, "I am just waiting until I am ready." It says, "I am just trying to make sure." It says, "I need more confirmation." It says, "I need more confidence." It says, "I need the perfect time." It says, "I need to heal completely first." It says, "I need everyone to understand." It says, "I need to know exactly how it will work before I begin." And sometimes, preparation is real. There are seasons when God does train you. There are seasons when waiting is obedience. There are seasons when hiddenness is protection. There are seasons when moving too soon would be harmful. But there is also a point where preparation stops being preparation and becomes hiding, and your spirit knows the difference. Preparation has peace inside it, even when it is hard. Hiding has heaviness. Preparation makes you more available to God. Hiding makes you more afraid of being seen. Preparation produces readiness. Hiding produces endless delay. Preparation builds capacity. Hiding builds excuses. Preparation says, "I am becoming." Hiding says, "Not yet, not yet, not yet," until years pass and the same instruction is still waiting. Chosen one, you must be honest enough to ask this. Am I waiting on God, or am I waiting on fear to give me permission? Because fear will never give you permission. Fear will always ask for one more sign, one more delay, one more reason, one more person's approval, one more perfect condition, one more guarantee that you will not fail, will not be judged, will not be misunderstood, will not have to walk by faith. But faith does not usually begin after every risk disappears. Faith begins when God's instruction becomes more trustworthy than your need to control the outcome. That does not mean recklessness. That does not mean forcing. That does not mean ignoring wisdom. It means there comes a moment when you must stop calling fear wisdom just because fear speaks in a calm voice. Fear can sound intelligent. Fear can quote your past. Fear can remind you of every time something went wrong. Fear can use your trauma as evidence. Fear can make delay feel safe. Fear can make small obedience feel dangerous. Fear can make staying the same feel mature. But the voice of God does not always remove trembling before He asks for your yes. Sometimes the yes comes while your hands would be shaking if you were using them. Sometimes the yes comes while your voice is not confident yet. Sometimes the yes comes while you still have questions. Sometimes the yes comes before people understand. Sometimes the yes comes before the path looks complete. This is why the first step matters, not the whole staircase. The first step. God may not be asking you to understand the next 10 years. He may be asking you to obey the next instruction. But fear hates the next instruction because it cannot control the entire story from there. So fear tries to make obedience feel irresponsible. It tells you that you need more time. It tells you that you need more proof. It tells you that you need more strength. It tells you that you need more people to agree. It tells you that you need a better version of yourself before you can begin. And this is where you have to discern the difference between humility and unbelief. Humility says, God, I need you. Unbelief says, God, I cannot trust you unless I feel in control. Humility says, I am not enough without grace. Unbelief says, grace will not be enough for me. Humility bows, unbelief hides, and sometimes they sound similar if you do not listen carefully. This is why you have been feeling pressed, not because God wants to rush you, but because He knows fear has been negotiating with your obedience. He knows you have been waiting for a feeling that may never come until after you move. He knows you have been asking for confidence when He is offering direction. He knows you have been asking for the whole map when He is lighting the next step. He knows you have been calling yourself behind, when the truth is, you have been standing at the same instruction longer than necessary. Again, hear this without shame. God is not mocking your fear. He understands why you are afraid. He saw what happened when you trusted before and were disappointed. He saw the door that closed. He saw the person who left. He saw the effort that seemed wasted. He saw the years that did not produce what you expected. He saw the times you stepped out and felt embarrassed. He saw the prayers that seemed unanswered. He saw the moments when hope felt dangerous because disappointment had trained you to expect less. So He is not cruel toward your hesitation, but He loves you too much to let hesitation become your home. There is a difference between needing healing and building a house in avoidance. There is a difference between resting and retreating from your calling. There is a difference between waiting for God and quietly refusing to move, because movement might require trust again. This is the place where freedom becomes honest. Because if comparison says you are behind everyone else, and busyness says you must carry everything else, fear says do not move until you can guarantee nothing will hurt. And together, these three can keep a chosen one trapped for years. Comparison makes you panic. Busyness makes you scattered. Fear makes you freeze. Comparison pulls your eyes away from your path. Busyness fills your hands with what is not first. Fear locks your feet at the edge of obedience. And then you wonder why you feel dangerously behind. But now you can see it. It was not one thing. It was a pattern of measuring the wrong timeline, a pattern of carrying the wrong weight, a pattern of delaying the right instruction. And once God reveals a pattern, He is already inviting you out of it. That is good news, because what can be named can be confronted. What can be confronted can be surrendered. What can be surrendered can be reordered. And what is reordered can finally receive peace. This is why you are not hopeless. You are not stuck forever. You are not too late. You are not too broken to obey. You are not too scattered to be gathered again. But you must stop defending the disorder that is draining you. You must stop protecting the excuses that keep you from peace. You must stop calling the cage wisdom just because it has kept you from risk. You must stop calling the noise necessary just because people are used to you answering it. You must stop calling comparison awareness just because it feels normal in a world addicted to visible success. God is calling you deeper than normal. He is calling you back to order, and order will not always feel natural at first. If you have lived scattered for a long time, peace may feel unfamiliar. If you have lived in comparison for a long time, your own path may feel too quiet. If you have lived by pressure for a long time, true instruction may feel too simple. If you have lived in fear for a long time, obedience may feel like danger, even when it is actually deliverance. That is why you need discernment, because not every uncomfortable thing is wrong. Sometimes discomfort is what you feel when an old pattern loses control. Sometimes heaviness lifts slowly because your soul is learning a new way to move. Sometimes peace feels strange because chaos was familiar. Sometimes silence feels empty because noise used to tell you who you were. But do not run back to disorder just because order feels new. Do not run back to comparison because your own path feels quiet. Do not run back to overgiving because boundaries feel awkward. Do not run back to fear because obedience feels vulnerable. Stay with what God is showing you. Let the correction do its work. Let the root be exposed. Let the false urgency lose its throne. Let the old pressure fall from the center. Let your spirit remember that God's way is not frantic. God can be urgent without being chaotic. God can correct without condemning. God can interrupt without abandoning. God can slow you down without rejecting you. God can tell you to drop something without taking everything from you. And right now, He is not asking you to become someone else. He is asking you to stop letting other voices organize your life. Comparison has had enough time. False responsibility has had enough space. Fear has had enough authority. Now order must return. Now the first thing must rise again. Now the center must be restored. And this is where another layer must be mentioned, gently. Because for many chosen ones, the disorder has not only been spiritual or emotional, it has also affected the mind. When you live too long in comparison, pressure, fear, and scattered responsibility, your mind begins to feel foggy. Your focus becomes harder to hold. Your thoughts feel slower. Your decisions feel heavier. Your prayers may still be sincere, but your inner state feels crowded, almost as if your brain is stuck in survival while your spirit is reaching for clarity. This matters because God created you with a mind that can receive, perceive, imagine, discern, and move in wisdom. There is a kind of God-given clarity that many people tasted more easily when they were younger, before fear, pressure, disappointment, and constant noise trained their mind to live guarded. Later, we will talk more deeply about that connection between the mind, spiritual focus, and the state where clarity begins to return. Not as a replacement for obedience, not as a shortcut around surrender, but as a way to understand why some of you have been willing in your spirit, yet foggy in your focus. Because sometimes the heart is saying yes, but the mind is still exhausted from years of survival. And God cares about that too. He does not only want your spirit inspired, He wants your inner life restored. He wants your mind clear enough to recognize the first thing. He wants your attention free enough to follow the next instruction. He wants your focus strong enough to stop being stolen by every loud thing around you. But before we go there, we must finish uncovering the root. Because if your mind becomes clear, but your order stays broken, you will only use clarity to chase the wrong things faster. And that is not restoration. Restoration is when clarity and obedience meet. It is when your mind becomes quieter and your yes becomes cleaner. It is when you stop chasing borrowed timelines and start honoring assigned timing. It is when you stop carrying unassigned weight and start protecting holy focus. It is when you stop hiding behind preparation and start taking the next faithful step. This is what God is bringing you toward. And if you feel something inside resisting, do not be surprised. The old pattern does not leave without argument. Comparison will try to return by showing you someone else's highlight. False responsibility will try to return by making you feel guilty for having peace. Fear will try to return by asking, "What if this does not work?" But you do not have to obey every thought that enters your mind. You do not have to bow to every feeling that rises in your chest. You do not have to rebuild a prison just because freedom feels unfamiliar. Let the old pattern speak, but do not hand it the keys again. Let comparison talk, but do not let it become your measure. Let guilt talk, but do not let it become your master. Let fear talk, but do not let it become your prophet. God is restoring order, and order begins when the false voices lose authority. So here is the quiet truth of this part of the message. You were not pulled out of order because you are weak. You were pulled out of order because you are human, and you have been carrying pressure without enough stillness. You were pulled out of order because you cared deeply, and some people benefited from your lack of boundaries. You were pulled out of order because you wanted to be wise, and fear learned how to imitate wisdom. You were pulled out of order because you wanted to grow, but comparison made growth feel like a race instead of a formation. But now God is putting language to it. Comparison, false responsibility, fear disguised as preparation. These are not your identity. They are patterns, and patterns can be broken. Patterns can be surrendered. Patterns can be replaced. You are not comparison. You are not delay. You are not fear. You are not disorder. You are a chosen one being called back into divine order. And that means the next question is no longer, why do I feel behind? Now the question becomes, what is the first thing God is asking me to restore? Because once you know what pulled you out of order, you are ready to return to what brings you back. And the first thing is not always what you expect. It may not be the biggest dream. It may not be the most impressive move. It may not be the thing other people would clap for. It may be the quiet instruction you have been stepping over every day while asking God for a louder answer. It may be the one act of obedience that looks small but carries the key to everything else. It may be the one boundary that restores your peace. It may be the one decision that stops the bleeding. It may be the one surrender that clears the room inside you. It may be the one truth you need to stop avoiding. It may be the one place where God has been saying, start here, not everywhere, here. And in the next part, that is exactly where we must go. Because until the first thing is restored, every other solution becomes temporary. You can organize your schedule and still feel scattered. You can make new plans and still avoid obedience. You can remove distractions and still carry fear. You can pray for direction and still ignore the instruction that has already been given. So now we must talk about the first thing, how to recognize it, why it keeps returning, why it feels so easy to postpone, and why restoring it may be the moment your entire season begins to shift back into order. Because restoring the first thing is not about adding pressure to your life. It is about removing confusion from the center. And before you can restore it, you have to understand what the first thing really is. The first thing is not always the biggest dream. It is not always the most emotional desire. It is not always the thing that gets attention from people. It is not always the thing that looks impressive. The first thing is the instruction that keeps returning. The first thing is the place where God keeps meeting you. The first thing is the quiet knowing you keep stepping over while asking for louder direction. The first thing is the simple yes that has been waiting underneath all your complicated questions. And this is why so many chosen ones miss it. They expect the first thing to feel dramatic. They expect God's instruction to arrive like a storm, shaking every wall, making everything obvious, leaving no room for doubt. But often, the first thing is quiet. It comes as a steady conviction. It comes as a repeated nudge. It comes as a sentence you cannot shake. It comes as a boundary you know you need. It comes as a truth you have been avoiding. It comes as a small act of obedience that feels too simple to be connected to something large. But simple does not mean powerless. A seed is simple. A key is simple. A yes is simple. A step is simple. But the smallest thing can hold the turning point of an entire season when God is inside it. This is why you cannot judge the first thing by how impressive it looks. You must judge it by the weight it carries in your spirit. There are things you can ignore for a week and feel nothing. There are things you can forget and your peace remains untouched. But then there is that one thing, that one instruction, that one area, that one decision, that one conversation, that one release, that one return, that one obedience, and every time you step around it, something inside gets heavier. That is not because God is trying to torment you. That is because the first thing is connected to order. And when the first thing is out of place, your soul feels the misalignment. You may still function. You may still smile. You may still handle responsibilities. You may still appear normal. But underneath everything, there is a quiet disorder that follows you into every room. Because your spirit knows what your schedule keeps avoiding. Your spirit knows what your mouth keeps explaining away. Your spirit knows what your fear keeps renaming. Your spirit knows when you are asking God for a new word while avoiding the old instruction. And this is where many people get stuck. They think they need more revelation. But sometimes they do not need more revelation. They need return. They think they need God to speak louder. But sometimes God has already spoken clearly, and the next level of clarity is waiting on obedience. They think they need a new sign, but sometimes the sign has been the repeated discomfort of living around the thing they refuse to face. Chosen one, this is not condemnation. This is mercy getting specific, because vague conviction keeps you anxious. Specific conviction can set you free. When everything feels wrong, you panic. But when God shows you the first thing, you can finally stop trying to repair your entire life in one night. You can come back to one place, one instruction, one act of order, one sacred yes. That is why the first thing matters. It simplifies the battle. It shows you where to begin. It stops your mind from turning your whole life into a mountain. God may not be asking you to climb the entire mountain today. He may be asking you to stop walking in the wrong direction. He may be asking you to return to the path. He may be asking you to put down what has been taking his place. He may be asking you to obey the instruction that has been waiting quietly while you keep asking for something more dramatic. So now, let us name how the first thing often appears. The first way you recognize it is that it keeps returning when the noise gets quiet. You may avoid it during the day. You may distract yourself with responsibilities. You may fill every silent space with sound, conversation, scrolling, planning, working, helping, and thinking. But when the noise lowers, it returns. Maybe right before sleep. Maybe in the early morning. Maybe when you are driving. Maybe in the shower. Maybe in the strange silence after a conversation ends. Maybe in the moment after you laugh with people. But then your spirit becomes serious again. There it is, the same knowing, the same instruction, the same area of your life, the same sentence inside you. You need to forgive. You need to stop explaining. You need to rest. You need to begin. You need to finish. You need to leave that alone. You need to stop going back. You need to protect your peace. You need to stop delaying the thing God already made clear. You need to return to Him before you try to repair everything else. It keeps returning because it is not random. It keeps returning because your spirit recognizes priority. It keeps returning because the first thing does not disappear just because your mind is busy. That is why busyness cannot heal this. Noise cannot heal this. More information cannot heal this. Another plan cannot heal this. Because the issue is not that you do not know enough. The issue is that one thing you already know has not been restored to its place. The second way you recognize the first thing is that it usually asks for surrender before it gives you strategy. This is why people avoid it. They want the plan first. They want the guarantee first. They want the explanation first. They want the outcome first. They want to know how everything will work. They want to know who will approve. They want to know what will happen after they obey. But the first thing often begins with surrender, not because God is hiding the plan to hurt you, but because surrender is the doorway through which real guidance can enter. If God gave you the full strategy before your heart surrendered, you might try to control the strategy instead of trusting Him. You might turn divine direction into another project for your anxiety to manage. You might try to obey without releasing the thing obedience is meant to break. So the first thing often sounds simple. Let go, stop, return, wait, speak, forgive, rest, begin, be still, walk away, tell the truth. Do not answer that. Do not chase that. Do not carry that. Do not build there. Come back to me. And your mind may say, but what happens after that? And God may not answer everything at once, because the first thing is not meant to satisfy your need for control. It is meant to restore your trust. This is why obedience can feel uncomfortable even when it is correct. It touches the place where you want certainty more than surrender. It touches the place where you want clarity without release. It touches the place where you want peace while still holding what disrupts it. But God is too loving to give you a peace that lets you remain divided. He wants to make you whole, and wholeness begins when the center becomes clean. The third way you recognize the first thing is that it exposes what has been sitting in the wrong place. If God says rest, it may expose your addiction to proving yourself. If God says wait, it may expose your need to control timing. If God says move, it may expose how long fear has been pretending to be wisdom. If God says forgive, it may expose how much of your identity has been tied to the wound. If God says be silent, it may expose how deeply you have depended on being understood. If God says create distance, it may expose how much guilt has been governing your relationships. If God says begin, it may expose how many years you have been calling preparation what was really fear. This is why the first thing can feel threatening, not because it is dangerous, but because it challenges the false order you have been living under. It touches the throne of whatever has been ruling you: fear, pressure, approval, comparison, comfort, old pain, people's expectations, your own need to be in control. And when God touches that throne, something in you may resist. That resistance does not mean the instruction is wrong. Sometimes, resistance is proof that the instruction has found the exact place where freedom needs to begin. So do not be surprised if the first thing brings both peace and discomfort. Peace because your spirit knows it is true. Discomfort because your old pattern knows it is losing authority. This is what many people misunderstand. They think peace means every part of them feels calm. But sometimes peace is deeper than the trembling. Sometimes peace is the quiet certainty underneath the fear. Sometimes peace is the part of you that knows God is right, even while another part of you is scared to obey. Sometimes peace is not the absence of resistance. Sometimes peace is the presence of truth, and truth has a weight. The fourth way you recognize the first thing is that it makes everything else clearer once you honor it. Before obedience, everything feels tangled. You try to make decisions, but your thoughts circle. You try to pray, but your mind wanders. You try to rest, but guilt rises. You try to plan, but fear interrupts. You try to move forward, but something feels blocked. But when you restore the first thing, something begins to settle. Not everything is solved, but the center becomes clearer. You begin to know what is yours and what is not. You begin to hear which voices have been too loud. You begin to see which responsibilities have been draining the life out of you. You begin to recognize which delays were protection and which delays were fear. You begin to understand why certain doors did not open yet. You begin to sense the difference between God's timing and your panic. This is why the first thing is so powerful. It does not answer every question. It restores the place from which you can hear. And that is what you need. Not just answers, a restored place inside you. Because if the inner place is chaotic, even the right answer can be mishandled. If the inner place is fearful, even an open door can feel like a threat. If the inner place is wounded, even a blessing can be questioned. If the inner place is scattered, even divine instruction can sound like more pressure. So God is not only correcting your behavior, He is restoring the place where you receive. That is why the first thing matters. It brings your inner life back under divine order. And now, I want you to consider something carefully. The first thing is often connected to the thing you least want to admit. Not always, but often, because the soul will often defend the area where it most needs healing. You may defend the relationship God is asking you to release. You may defend the schedule God is asking you to simplify. You may defend the fear God is asking you to stop obeying. You may defend the delay God is asking you to confront. You may defend the identity God is asking you to outgrow. You may defend the noise because without it, you would have to hear what you have been avoiding. This does not make you bad. It makes you human. But chosen one, you did not come this far to remain defended against your own freedom. You did not survive what you survived just to keep protecting the pattern that keeps you tired. You did not endure the wilderness just to build a home in confusion. There comes a moment when God's mercy asks for honesty, and that moment may be now. So inside yourself, without moving, without proving, without performing, let one question rise. What keeps returning? Not what is loudest, not what is most dramatic, not what other people think you should do. What keeps returning? What instruction keeps coming back when you are finally quiet? What truth keeps meeting you beneath your excuses? What act of obedience keeps waiting at the edge of your awareness? What have you been calling small that may actually be first? Do not force an answer. Let the true one rise. Because the first thing usually does not need to be invented. It needs to be admitted. Some of you already know. The moment this question was asked, something came forward inside you. A word, a person, a decision, a boundary, a calling, a surrender, a return, a beginning, a closing, a simple yes. And if something rose inside you, do not push it down immediately. Do not argue with it right away. Do not cover it with 10 reasons why it is complicated. Do not let fear cross-examine it before God has finished touching it. Just hold it in the presence of God, not with your hands, with your awareness. Let it sit before Him. Let it be seen. Let the first thing stop hiding under everything else. This is the beginning of order. Not solving everything, not knowing everything, not controlling everything. Just letting the first thing be named. Because what remains unnamed often remains unhealed. But what comes into the light can be surrendered, and what is surrendered can be restored. Now, there is a reason this is so important for a chosen one. You are not called to live randomly. You may have had seasons that looked random. You may have walked through confusion. You may have lost things you thought were permanent. You may have been misunderstood by people who only saw the outside of your process. You may have felt like your life was moving in circles while everyone else moved in a straight line. But God has never been random with you. Even the hidden years were not random. Even the delay was not random. Even the silence was not random. Even the doors that did not open were not random. Even the people who left were not random. Even the pressure that formed you was not random. That does not mean every painful thing was sent by God. But it does mean God is able to use what happened to form what is needed. Look at David. David was anointed long before he was crowned. That means there was a gap between what God saw and what people recognized. There was a gap between the oil and the throne. There was a gap between the calling and the public confirmation. And in that gap, David had to remain faithful in hidden places. He was not behind because he was still in the field. He was being formed in the field. He was not rejected because he had not reached the palace yet. He was learning things in obscurity that the palace would later require. The field was not glamorous. The field was not applauded. The field did not look like destiny to people who only understood public success. But God knew what He was building. The hand that would hold a crown first had to learn how to hold a sling. The heart that would lead people first had to learn how to worship unseen. The courage that would stand before giants first had to be formed while no crowd was watching. So do not despise your field. Do not despise the hidden place. Do not despise the years where it looked like nothing was happening. Sometimes the place that looks like delay is the place where capacity is being formed. Sometimes the season that makes you feel behind is the season that keeps you from being destroyed by premature elevation. Sometimes God keeps you hidden not because you are unwanted, but because what He is preparing in you is too important to be rushed. But there is another side to this. David could not despise the field, but he also could not abandon faithfulness in the field. He still had to show up. He still had to steward what was in front of him. He still had to honor the small assignment before the larger one appeared. This is where many people miss it. They love the idea of future calling, but neglect present obedience. They want the palace, but dishonor the field. They want the crown, but avoid the sling. They want the public door, but ignore the private instruction. Chosen one. The first thing is often found in the field. It is not always found where people clap. It is found where God is watching what you do when nobody celebrates it. It is found in the quiet, yes. It is found in the hidden obedience. It is found in the small responsibility that trains your hands for the larger one. It is found in the private surrender that prepares you for public weight. So if you feel behind because your life does not look like the palace yet, ask a deeper question. Am I being faithful in the field? Am I honoring the instruction in front of me? Am I letting God form the part of me that no one can see? Am I waiting with obedience or waiting with resentment? Because waiting with resentment drains you, but waiting with obedience forms you. Waiting with comparison poisons you, but waiting with worship strengthens you. Waiting with fear freezes you, but waiting with trust prepares you. This is the difference. You are not simply waiting for time to pass. You are being invited to become someone who can carry what is coming. And that becoming requires order. It requires the first thing to be first. It requires hidden faithfulness. It requires refusing to let another person's timeline become your master. It requires refusing to let busyness replace obedience. It requires refusing to let fear keep calling itself preparation. And I sense the Father saying this to someone right now. You are not late. You are scattered. You are not rejected. You are being gathered. You are not forgotten. You are being reordered. You are not outside my timing. You are being brought back into the place where you can recognize it. Receive that gently. You are not late. You are scattered. And scattered is not an identity. Scattered is a condition that can be healed. Scattered means your attention has been divided. Scattered means too many voices have been allowed into the center. Scattered means your peace has been pulled in different directions. Scattered means the first thing has been covered, not destroyed. And what is covered can be uncovered. What is out of place can be reordered. What is divided can be gathered. What is tired can be restored. This is why you must stop using the word behind as a weapon against yourself. You have been saying, I am behind, as if it means you are less valuable. But heaven may be saying, you are out of order and I am bringing you back. That is a very different message. One produces shame. The other produces direction. One makes you hide. The other helps you return. One makes you compare. The other helps you listen. One makes you panic. The other helps you obey. So let the word change inside you. Not behind, reordered, not abandoned, gathered, not late, being prepared, not lost, being called back. This is not wordplay. This is spiritual survival. Because if you keep naming your season through fear, you will keep responding to it with panic. But if you let God name your season, you can respond with obedience. This is where you need what I call the timeline audit. And you do not need paper for this. You do not need to move. You do not need to stop what you are safely doing. This happens inside. In your awareness, imagine 3 clocks in front of you. The first clock is the world's clock. It is loud, it is impartial. It measures age, money, relationship status, public success, visible progress, and how quickly other people seem to be moving. This clock tells you that you are late every time someone else arrives before you. This clock makes you feel ashamed of hidden growth. This clock makes you treat formation like failure. Now, imagine that clock being turned down, not destroyed, just turned down, because the world can measure many things, but it cannot measure the depth of what God is building in you. The second clock is fear's clock. This clock is nervous. It says, hurry before it is too late. But it also says, wait because you are not ready. It rushes you and freezes you at the same time. It tells you to move out of panic, then tells you to hide out of insecurity. It creates confusion, and then calls the confusion wisdom. Now imagine that clock losing authority. It may still tick in the background, but it no longer gets to govern your yes. Fear is not allowed to set the timing of your obedience. The third clock is God's formation. This one is different. It is not frantic. It is not lazy. It is not careless. It is steady. It knows when to hide you and when to reveal you. It knows when to slow you down and when to move you forward. It knows when to close a door and when to open one. It knows what your character can carry. It knows what your nervous system has endured. It knows what your heart still needs to release. It knows what your assignment will require. It knows the difference between delay and protection. It knows the difference between preparation and avoidance. It knows the difference between your comfort zone and your capacity. Now let this third clock become the one your spirit listens to. Not the world's clock, not fear's clock, God's formation. And let this sentence settle inside you. I do not receive timing from fear. I receive timing from God. This is not passive. This is not an excuse to avoid obedience. This is alignment. Because when God's timing governs you, you stop rushing what needs formation, and you stop delaying what needs obedience. You stop chasing doors that are not yours, and you stop hiding from doors that are. You stop worshiping speed, and you start honoring readiness. You stop calling yourself behind just because your process is hidden. This is how the timeline begins to heal. And this matters because there is a kind of time that human clocks cannot fully explain. In Scripture, there is a word often used to speak of appointed time, kairos. It does not simply mean minutes passing on a clock. It points to the right time, the appointed moment, the season when something becomes ready, the moment when purpose and preparation meet. And this is important for you, because you may feel behind according to ordinary time. You may feel behind according to age, behind according to society, behind according to your own expectations, behind according to the life you thought you would have by now. But God is not only working with clock time, He is working with appointed time. And appointed time is not late when formation is still doing its work. A seed underground may look behind compared to a flower already blooming. But if the seed is still rooting, it is not failing. It is becoming capable of holding what will appear later. A foundation may look behind compared to a building that already has walls. But if the foundation is being strengthened, the delay is not meaningless. It is mercy, because height without foundation is danger. Visibility without preparation is danger. Opportunity without order is danger. Blessing without capacity is danger. This is why God is not merely trying to make things happen fast. He is preparing you for the appointed moment when what He releases will not crush what He has formed. So the danger is not that you missed every chance. The danger is trying to enter appointed time while still living under scattered order. The danger is asking for the door while refusing the first instruction. The danger is praying for increase while ignoring the foundation. The danger is wanting the crown while despising the field. The danger is calling yourself late when God is calling you to get ready. This is why the first thing matters. The first thing is often the bridge between your current disorder and your appointed time. It is the obedience that prepares the vessel. It is the correction that strengthens the foundation. It is the return that clears the inner room. It is the surrender that makes space for the next instruction. It is the small yes that brings you back into the rhythm of God. Chosen one, do not underestimate the small yes. Your life may not shift all at once, but your direction can shift in one moment. Your feelings may not fully change in one day, but your agreement can change now. Your circumstances may still need time, but your center can return before the circumstances move. And sometimes the center returning is the miracle that makes everything else possible. Because when the center is wrong, even blessings feel unstable. But when the center is restored, even waiting can have peace. This is why the first thing must not be treated as optional. It is not optional because God wants to control you harshly. It is not optional because you are being punished. It is not optional because you must earn love. It is not optional because your worth is at stake. It is not optional because order protects purpose. Order protects peace. Order protects clarity. Order protects discernment. Order protects the part of you that must remain sensitive enough to hear God. If the first thing is prayer, then prayer belongs first. If the first thing is rest, then rest belongs first. If the first thing is forgiveness, then forgiveness belongs first. If the first thing is a boundary, then the boundary belongs first. If the first thing is truth, then truth belongs first. If the first thing is beginning, then beginning belongs first. If the first thing is stopping, then stopping belongs first. If the first thing is returning to God before returning to everything else, then that belongs first. And you do not need to explain it to everyone before you obey it. That is another trap. Some chosen ones delay obedience because they are waiting for people to understand. But obedience does not always come with public approval. David's brothers did not understand the oil. Joseph's brothers did not understand the dream. Moses did not feel qualified for the assignment. Mary received a calling that could not be explained easily to everyone around her. Again and again, God's instruction came before full human understanding. And if you wait for everyone to understand what God is forming in you, you may wait until obedience becomes disobedience. Not everyone has to understand the first thing for you to honor it. Not everyone has to agree with the boundary. Not everyone has to approve the return. Not everyone has to validate the quiet instruction. Not everyone has to see the weight of what God said. Some things must be obeyed before they are explained. And some things may never be fully explained to people who are committed to misunderstanding your growth. This is not permission to be reckless. This is not permission to become arrogant. This is not permission to ignore wise counsel. This is permission to stop making universal approval the price of obedience. You can be humble and still obey. You can be gentle and still be firm. You can be loving and still be unavailable for what God told you to leave. You can be misunderstood and still be aligned. You can be quiet and still be certain. You can be hidden and still be chosen. So now the question becomes very personal. What is your first thing? Not the general idea, not the inspiring concept. Your first thing, the thing God keeps bringing back, the thing that has been waiting under the noise, the thing that would bring the most order if you stopped avoiding it. For some of you, the first thing is returning to prayer without performance. Not praying to sound spiritual, not praying to impress heaven, not praying as a task, but returning to honest communion with God. Returning to the place where you stop pretending and finally tell the truth. For some of you, the first thing is rest. Not laziness, not escape, not avoidance. Rest as obedience. Rest as trust. Rest as a refusal to keep living like everything depends on your exhaustion. For some of you, the first thing is a boundary. Not because you hate anyone, not because you want to punish anyone, but because your peace has been bleeding through doors God never told you to leave open. For some of you, the first thing is finishing what you keep starting, not because completion will make you worthy, but because there is a discipline being formed in you that your next season will require. For some of you, The first thing is forgiving someone, not excusing them, not inviting them back, not pretending it did not hurt, but releasing the legal right you feel to keep drinking the poison of remembrance. For some of you, the first thing is telling the truth to yourself. The truth that you are tired, the truth that you are afraid, the truth that you have outgrown something, the truth that you want more, the truth that you have been hiding, the truth that you keep calling confusion, even though deep down you already know. For some of you, the first thing is beginning, starting the thing, making the first move, taking the quiet step, not announcing it, not proving it, not making it perfect, just beginning in obedience. For some of you, the first thing is stopping. Stop chasing. Stop explaining. Stop returning to what keeps reopening the wound. Stop giving your best attention to what keeps leaving you empty. Stop letting fear call itself wisdom. Stop letting comparison call itself motivation. Stop letting pressure call itself purpose. And you will know which one is yours because it will carry a different weight. Not the weight of panic, the weight of truth. Not the weight of shame, the weight of conviction. Not the weight of performance, the weight of divine order. When it rises in you, your old patterns may argue. But deeper than the argument, there will be recognition. You will know. You may not like it immediately, but you will know. And once you know, the next step is not to make a giant plan. The next step is to agree with God. Agreement comes before action. Inside your spirit, before anything changes externally, there must be a yes. A clean yes. A yes without bargaining. A yes without demanding every detail first. A yes that says, God, I may not know how everything changes after this, but I know this belongs first. That yes is powerful. That yes begins to rearrange the inner room. That yes tells fear it is no longer in charge. That yes tells comparison it is no longer the measure. That yes tells false responsibility it is no longer the master. That yes tells your soul we are coming back into order. If you are in a place where you can comment later, you can write this simple sentence. The first thing belongs first. Not as a performance, not as a slogan, but as a declaration over your own inner life. The first thing belongs first. Let that become a line in the sand. Not everything gets to sit in the center anymore. Not every voice gets to be obeyed. Not every pressure gets to decide your pace. Not every fear gets to interpret your future. The first thing belongs first. And when that becomes true again, your season begins to shift. Maybe slowly at first, maybe quietly, maybe in ways other people cannot see. But the shift begins. Because God does not need chaos to guide you. He does not need panic to move you. He does not need shame to correct you. He does not need comparison to motivate you. He does not need fear to prepare you. He works through truth. He works through order. He works through surrender. He works through the quiet yes that no one else may notice, but heaven receives. And this is why you cannot despise this moment. This may not look like a breakthrough from the outside, but inside, something sacred is being restored. The first thing is rising again. The center is being cleared. The false voices are being moved out of the throne. The scattered parts of you are being gathered, and the version of you that lives in order is beginning to breathe again. But there is still one more thing you must understand before you can fully move forward. Once the first thing is named, something must be dropped. Because order is not only about knowing what belongs first. Order is also about removing what keeps pushing it out of place. This is where the next layer becomes serious. You cannot keep calling the first thing first, while still giving your best energy to what God told you to release. You cannot say yes to the instruction and keep protecting the distraction. You cannot ask for clarity while feeding the noise. You cannot ask for peace while negotiating with the pattern that steals it. There are things that must be placed down, not because everything in your life is evil, not because every person around you is wrong, not because your responsibilities do not matter, but because not everything can come with you into divine order. Some things are too loud, Some things are too heavy. Some things are too attached to the old version of you. Some things are good, but not first. Some things are familiar, but not assigned. Some things are emotional, but not holy. Some things are urgent, but not yours. Some things have become part of your identity, but God is not asking you to carry them anymore. And this is why the words "drop everything" are not about panic. They are about priority. They are about placing everything before God and letting Him show you what must return, what must wait, and what must be released. Because the first thing cannot stay first if the old disorder remains protected. So now that the first thing has been named, we must talk about what has to be dropped. The comparison that keeps making you hate your pace, the noise that keeps stealing your clarity, the false responsibility that keeps draining your strength, the fear that keeps dressing itself as wisdom, the old attachment that keeps pulling you back into a version of you that God has already called forward. This is where many people turn away, because naming the first thing can feel inspiring, but dropping what competes with it requires courage. And that courage is where your next shift begins. Because courage is where the next shift begins. Not the loud kind of courage that needs everyone to see it. Not the dramatic kind that makes a public announcement and tries to prove something. The quiet kind. The kind of courage that says, I can no longer keep giving first place to what God told me to release. The kind of courage that looks at the thing that has been sitting in the center too long and finally admits, you may have been familiar, but you are not first. That is what drop everything really means. It does not mean abandon your life. It does not mean run away from every responsibility. It does not mean become reckless. It does not mean disappear from everyone. It does not mean make emotional decisions just because you feel pressure in the moment. When God says, drop everything, He is not calling you into chaos. He is calling you out of it. He is saying, put down what has been standing between you and the first thing. Put down what has been stealing your clarity. Put down what has been draining your obedience. Put down what has been convincing you that being scattered is normal. Put down what has been making you feel dangerously behind when the real issue is that too many things have been allowed to sit in the wrong place. Some things must be placed down before the next door opens. Not because they are all evil, not because they never mattered, not because you must hate them, but because they cannot come with you into order. And this is where many people misunderstand God's correction. They think if God asks them to release something, it means that thing was worthless. But sometimes God asks you to release something because its season is complete. Sometimes He asks you to release something because it has moved from helpful to harmful. Sometimes He asks you to release something because it once supported your survival, but now it is limiting your growth. Sometimes He asks you to release something because you have turned it into an identity. Sometimes He asks you to release something because it is occupying space that belongs to your next instruction. And if you are honest, some of what you have been carrying has not been carrying you back. It has been taking from you, taking your peace, taking your focus, taking your confidence, taking your ability to hear, taking your willingness to begin, taking your rest, taking your attention from the one thing God has been making clear. So the question is not only, what is the first thing? The question is also, what keeps pushing the first thing out of place? Because if you name the first thing, but keep protecting the thing that competes with it, you will stay divided. And division is exhausting. A divided spirit cannot rest deeply. A divided mind cannot focus clearly. A divided heart cannot obey steadily. A divided life may look active, but it feels heavy inside. And that is why this part matters. You are not dropping everything because you are afraid. You are dropping what must be dropped because you are finally choosing order. The first thing you must drop is comparison. Not because you will never notice another person's life again. Not because you will never feel the sting when someone else receives something you have been praying for. Not because you are expected to become emotionless, but because comparison cannot be allowed to interpret your timing anymore. Comparison is a false prophet. It looks at someone else's harvest and makes predictions about your seed. It looks at someone else's open door and makes accusations against your waiting. It looks at someone else's public blessing and tells you that your hidden formation must be failure. But comparison does not know what God knows. Comparison does not know what your soul had to survive. Comparison does not know what your nervous system has carried. Comparison does not know the prayers you prayed in private. Comparison does not know the battles you won without witnesses. Comparison does not know what God is building underneath the surface. Comparison only knows what it can see, and what it can see is never enough to judge what God is doing. So you must stop letting visible things rewrite invisible truth. Someone else being blessed does not mean you are cursed. Someone else moving forward does not mean you are abandoned. Someone else being seen does not mean you are forgotten. Someone else stepping into their season does not mean your appointed time has expired. God is not limited by another person's miracle. He did not run out of goodness when He blessed them. He did not forget your address because He visited someone else. He did not remove your name from His heart because another person's door opened first. But comparison will try to make you feel that way. It will whisper, "Look at them." It will whisper, "You should have been there by now." It will whisper, "You are too late." It will whisper, "Your chance passed." It will whisper, "You are falling behind." And if you listen long enough, you will begin to move from panic instead of peace. You will rush into things that are not assigned. You will accept relationships that do not carry alignment. You will chase platforms God did not call you to build. You will copy strategies that do not fit your grace. You will hate your hidden season because someone else is blooming in public. Chosen one, drop the comparison. Not later, now. In your inner world, imagine every timeline you have been using against yourself laid down like broken measuring sticks on the ground. The age you thought you would be by now. The money you thought you would have by now. The relationship you thought would have happened by now. The career path you thought would be clearer by now. The confidence you thought would be stronger by now. The healing you thought would be finished by now. Let all those measuring sticks fall, and let God stand in the center of your timing. You do not need to break your own spirit with a clock God did not give you. You do not need to accuse your process because someone else's process looks faster. You do not need to keep turning another person's blessing into evidence against your life. Let this rise inside you. I release borrowed timelines. Say it within yourself if it meets you. I release borrowed timelines. Your path does not need to look like theirs to be real. Your preparation does not need to be public to be holy. Your timing does not need to be understood by everyone to be protected by God. This is how comparison begins to lose authority. You stop giving it the right to define you. You stop bringing your life to it for judgment. You stop asking it whether God is still faithful. And once comparison begins to fall, another layer becomes visible. Noise. The second thing you must drop is noise. And noise is not only sound. Noise is anything that keeps your inner life crowded. Noise is the conversation you keep replaying. Noise is the opinion you keep defending yourself against in your mind. Noise is the relationship that keeps pulling your attention into confusion. Noise is the fear that speaks before faith can breathe. Noise is the constant need to know what everyone else is doing. Noise is the emotional clutter of unfinished decisions. Noise is the habit of filling every quiet moment because silence might reveal what you have been avoiding. Noise is not always loud outside you. Sometimes the loudest noise is internal. You can be in a quiet room and still be surrounded by noise. You can be lying still and still be mentally running. You can be sitting in silence and still be arguing with people who are not there. You can be alone and still feel crowded because too many voices have been allowed to live inside your attention. And when the inner room is crowded, the first thing becomes hard to hear. Not because God is not speaking, but because everything else is speaking at the same time. This is why the noise fast matters. And hear this carefully. This is not about doing some dramatic physical challenge. This is not about proving discipline through outward performance. This is an inner decision. For the next stretch of your life, even if only for one day at first, you begin choosing what gets access to your attention. You do not have to announce it. You do not have to explain it. You do not have to make it impressive. You simply begin to notice what steals your clarity and stop handing it the center. When a thought comes that drags you back into comparison, you do not entertain it like a guest of honor. When a memory comes that pulls you into old arguments, you do not let it hold court in your mind all day. When fear tries to narrate your future, you do not let it preach longer than truth. When someone's demand feels loud, you do not automatically call it first. When the urge comes to distract yourself from the instruction, you recognize it for what it is. Noise trying to protect disorder. This is where you must become spiritually firm, not harsh, firm. Your attention is not a public space. Your inner life is not a room where every fear, every opinion, every memory, every demand, and every comparison gets to come in and rearrange the furniture. Your attention is sacred. Your focus is part of your stewardship. Your ability to hear God must be protected. So imagine your inner life as a room. For a long time, people have walked in and left things there. Fear left a chair. Comparison left a mirror. Guilt left a chain. Old pain left a shadow. Pressure left a clock. Other people's expectations left piles of unfinished papers. And the first thing God gave you has been sitting in the corner, almost covered. Now, without moving your body, imagine God walking into that room with light, not violent light, steady light. And one by one, the things that do not belong in the center are moved away. The chair of fear is moved away. The mirror of comparison is moved away. The chain of guilt is moved away. The shadow of old pain is moved away. The clock of false urgency is moved away. And there, in the center, the first thing becomes visible again. That is the noise fast. Not empty silence, holy clearing. The clearing of what has been too loud. The clearing of what has been too heavy. The clearing of what has been sitting in the wrong place. And as that room clears, your spirit begins to feel something it may not have felt in a while. Space. Space to hear. Space to breathe. Space to choose. Space to obey. Space to stop reacting to everything and start responding to God. This is why noise must be dropped. Because noise does not only distract you, noise trains you to distrust stillness. And if you distrust stillness, you will always feel like God is late when He is actually inviting you deeper. Stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is where order becomes audible. But noise will fight to return. It will say, you need to check, you need to know, you need to answer, you need to replay it, you need to solve it now, you need to compare, you need to prepare for the worst, you need to keep thinking until you feel safe. But overthinking does not always create safety. Sometimes overthinking is fear pretending to protect you while quietly exhausting you. And God is not asking you to worship your thoughts. He is asking you to return to His voice. So drop the noise, drop the inner argument, drop the false court where you keep defending yourself before people who are not even listening. Drop the imaginary trial where you keep trying to prove your worth. Drop the constant need to predict every outcome. Drop the emotional habit of staying available to every fear. This does not mean you stop being wise. It means fear no longer gets to be your wisdom. This does not mean you ignore reality. It means reality no longer gets interpreted through panic. This does not mean you become passive. It means your action begins from order, not chaos. And once noise begins to fall, the next thing becomes visible. False responsibility. The third thing you must drop is the weight God never assigned to you. This one may touch you deeply, because many chosen ones have carried this for years. You became the strong one, the listener, the fixer, the one who understood, the one who kept peace, the one who noticed when something was wrong, the one who apologized first, the one who explained, the one who stayed available, the one who could not fully rest because someone else might need something. And at first, it may have looked like love. Sometimes it was love, but over time, something shifted. Love became pressure. Compassion became self-abandonment. Service became identity. Availability became proof of worth. And slowly, you began carrying things that God never asked you to carry. You carried people's reactions. You carried their disappointment. You carried their silence. You carried their instability. You carried their expectations. You carried the fear of being misunderstood. You carried the guilt of outgrowing old patterns. You carried the burden of making sure everyone felt okay with the version of you God was forming. But you were never meant to carry all of that. You were meant to love. You were meant to serve. You were meant to care. But you were not meant to become the source. Only God can be God. And when you try to become what only God can be for people, your spirit will eventually break under the weight. This is why the sacred no is necessary. Not a bitter no, not a prideful no, not a revengeful no. A sacred no. A no that protects the yes God gave you. A no that keeps the first thing in first place. A no that says, I can love you, but I cannot be led by your reaction. A no that says, I can care, but I cannot carry what God did not assign to me. A no that says, I can be kind, but I cannot keep abandoning my peace to maintain your access. A no that says, I can forgive, but I do not have to return to the same disorder. A no that says, I can honor what was, but I cannot keep living in what God has completed. Chosen one, you are allowed to protect what God is building in you. You are allowed to outgrow old access. You are allowed to become less available to what keeps draining your spirit. You are allowed to stop explaining your healing to people committed to misunderstanding it. You are allowed to let silence protect what arguments would only expose. You are allowed to disappoint expectations that were built on your exhaustion. You are allowed to obey God before you satisfy every demand around you. And you do not owe an apology for becoming ordered. The guilt may rise. Let it rise. But do not let it rule. The discomfort may speak. Let it speak. But do not let it lead. The old version of you may feel pulled back into the old pattern. Let it be acknowledged. But do not resurrect it just because people are familiar with it. God did not bring you this far to make you easier to control. He brought you this far to make you whole. And wholeness requires boundaries. Wholeness requires discernment. Wholeness requires knowing the difference between what touches your heart and what has been assigned to your hands. This is where false responsibility loses power. You stop assuming that every need is your command. You stop assuming that every disappointment is your failure. You stop assuming that every person's reaction must be managed by your obedience. You stop assuming that love requires you to remain disordered. And as this false weight falls, you begin to realize something. You are not as weak as you thought. You were overloaded. You are not as confused as you thought. You were crowded. You are not as behind as you thought. You were divided. You are not as incapable as you thought. You were carrying more than God asked you to carry. And when the wrong weight comes off, strength begins to return. Not all at once, but enough to notice, enough to breathe differently, enough to hear more clearly, enough to look at the first thing and say, I can return now. But there is one more layer, and this is where the message becomes even more honest. You can release comparison, you can clear noise, you can drop false responsibility, and still find that your mind feels foggy, still find that your focus feels weak, still find that your spirit wants order, but your thoughts feel tired from years of survival. This is not because you are failing. It is because your inner system has been trained by pressure. When a person lives for too long in stress, comparison, disappointment, fear, and constant emotional noise, the mind can start operating like it is always defending against something. Even when you pray, part of you is bracing. Even when you rest, part of you is scanning. Even when God speaks peace, part of you is preparing for loss. Even when you want to focus, your attention keeps slipping back into survival patterns. And this matters because clarity is not only a spiritual desire. It is also something your mind must be able to receive. God created your mind with incredible capacity, the ability to imagine, the ability to discern, the ability to recognize patterns, the ability to receive wisdom, the ability to enter focus, the ability to move into creative flow, the ability to sense when something is aligned and when something is not. Many chosen ones remember having a kind of clarity when they were younger, a natural knowing, a creative spark, a quickness, a sense that life was more open, more alive, more possible. But over time, pressure can bury that. Modern life can train the mind into constant distraction. Fear can keep the brain in survival. Disappointment can make hope feel dangerous, and the gift that once felt natural can begin to feel locked behind fog. That is why I want to say this carefully. Your spiritual life matters. Your obedience matters. Your surrender matters. But your mind also matters. Your focus matters. Your inner clarity matters. Your ability to quiet the noise and return to the state where you can hear, create, decide, and move with wisdom matters. And this is where I want to bring back something I mentioned earlier. There is a state of clarity that researchers often associate with higher levels of brain activity connected to focus, insight, and creative flow. Many call it the gamma state. And whether you look at it scientifically or spiritually, there is something powerful about the idea that God did not create your mind to live permanently in fog. You were not created to be numb. You were not created to be scattered forever. You were not created to survive every day with a mind that feels like it is running at half strength. You were created with a capacity for clarity, a God-given ability to perceive, focus, create, and respond. And for some of you, the message is not just obey. It is also recalibrate, because the heart may be willing, but the mind may be exhausted. The spirit may be saying yes, but the brain may still be trained by years of stress, noise, and survival. And that is why a tool can sometimes help. Not replace God, not replace obedience, not replace wisdom, not replace prayer, but support the inner environment where focus becomes easier to return to. There is a 7-minute audio track called The Genius Song, created around the idea of helping the mind return toward a gamma brainwave state through sound. It is not something you have to force for hours. It is not a complicated ritual. It is not another burden added to your already crowded life. You listen with headphones for 7 minutes. That is the simplicity of it. And I want to be honest with you. This is not a magic button that obeys God for you. It will not make decisions on your behalf. It will not replace the first thing. It will not build your boundaries for you. It will not surrender what you refuse to release. But for the person who feels mentally foggy, spiritually willing, and deeply tired of living scattered, it may become a tool that helps you create the inner room where clarity can return. Think of it like this. If your mind has been like a radio stuck between stations, filled with static, pressure, old fear, and constant noise, the Genius Song is designed like a frequency tool that helps turn the dial toward a clearer signal. Not so you can escape your life, so you can hear and respond with more focus. The information behind it speaks about brain entrainment, gamma waves, and the way sound can help guide the brain into a more focused state. The creator, Dr. Robert Lake, presents it as a simple 7-minute daily audio experience made for people who feel like their natural clarity, intuition, and creative spark have been buried under modern stress and mental noise. And that description may meet some of you deeply, because if you are watching this, you may not feel like an ordinary person who just needs productivity tips. You may feel like someone who once had more clarity, more sensitivity, more imagination, more inner knowing, more openness to possibility, and somewhere along the way, life pressed it down. The Genius Song is not for everyone, and I will never tell you to chase every tool just because it sounds spiritual or scientific. Discernment still matters. But if this resonates with where you are, if your spirit has been saying, I need clarity, I need focus, I need to feel like my mind is no longer fighting my calling, then you can explore it through the link in the description and the pinned comment. There are also important details there about the 7-minute track, the bonuses, and the guarantee. And I need to say this because it matters. Do not search randomly for it on other sites or platforms. There are many imitations and look-alike pages around tools like this, and not everything using the name carries the same audio technology, bonuses, or guarantee. The safest way to explore the original information is through the link provided with this video. And if it does not resonate with you, let it pass peacefully. No pressure, no fear, no force, because the real message remains this. A tool can support clarity, but it cannot replace surrender. A frequency can help quiet the static, but it cannot obey the first instruction for you. An audio track can support focus, but it cannot put God back in first place if you keep protecting the noise. So receive it as an option, not an idol. A support, not a savior. A tool, not the throne. God remains first. The first thing remains first. Order remains the assignment. And now we return to the deeper truth. You can have every external tool in the world, but if you keep giving your life to what is not first, the fog will return in another form. That is why the release matters. Drop comparison. Drop noise. Drop false responsibility. Drop fear, pretending to be wisdom. Drop the need to explain what God is still forming. Drop the old agreement that says you must be exhausted to be valuable. Drop the false timeline that says you are late because your hidden process does not look like someone else's public harvest. Drop the belief that peace is selfish. Drop the belief that boundaries are betrayal. Drop the belief that you must carry everything to prove you are chosen. You do not. Chosen does not mean endlessly available. Chosen does not mean constantly drained. Chosen does not mean spiritually sensitive but personally destroyed. Chosen does not mean you must live under everyone else's urgency. Chosen means set apart for purpose. And purpose requires order. Purpose requires protection. Purpose requires stillness. Purpose requires discernment. Purpose requires a clean yes. You cannot give a clean yes while your life is ruled by borrowed timelines. You cannot give a clean yes while your mind is crowded with every fear. You cannot give a clean yes while your peace is sacrificed to keep old access alive. You cannot give a clean yes while your first instruction keeps being buried. So now, let the release become real inside you. Again, you do not need to move your body. You do not need to perform anything. In your inner world, imagine yourself standing before a doorway. Behind you are the things that have been heavy. Comparison stands there with its measuring sticks. Noise stands there with its 1,000 voices. False responsibility stands there with bags you were never meant to carry. Fear stands there, holding a map full of warnings. And in front of you, the doorway is not loud. It is steady. It is the entrance back into divine order. You do not have to drag everything through that door. You do not have to argue with everything behind you. You do not have to prove why you are leaving certain weights on the ground. You simply recognize that not everything that followed you can enter with you. Now imagine placing comparison down, not because you are less, because your path is sacred. Imagine placing noise down, not because life has no responsibilities, because God's voice must become first. Imagine placing false responsibility down, not because you do not love people, because you are not God. Imagine placing fear down, not because you know every outcome, because trust is returning to the center. And as these things fall, imagine the first thing becoming lighter in front of you. Clearer, closer, not distant anymore, not buried anymore, not competing with 1,000 voices, just there, waiting for your yes. This is the holy moment, not the moment when everything is solved, the moment when order becomes possible again. And if there is one sentence to carry from this part, carry this. Not everything can come with me into order. Let it settle. Not everything can come with me into order. If you are in a place where you can comment later, write that sentence. Not everything can come with me into order. Not as a rejection of life, not as a rejection of people, but as a declaration that your next season will not be organized by the same disorder that drained your last one. Because here is the truth. Some things will only leave when you stop negotiating with them. Some weights will only fall when you stop calling them yours. Some noise will only quiet when you stop feeding it your attention. Some fear will only lose power when you stop asking it for permission. Some comparison will only die when you stop visiting it for identity. Some false responsibility will only break when you stop mistaking guilt for guidance. This is the courage required now, not just knowing what belongs first, but protecting it. And that protection may change your life in ways people notice. You may answer slower. You may explain less. You may choose silence more. You may stop showing up for drama that once controlled you. You may become less available to panic. You may become more careful with your attention. You may stop letting every opportunity become a yes. You may stop letting every emotional pull become an assignment. You may start choosing peace even when guilt tries to punish you for it. And some people may not understand. That is okay. Your obedience was never meant to be approved by everyone it inconveniences. Your order may disturb the people who benefited from your disorder. Your peace may confuse the people who only knew how to reach you through chaos. Your focus may offend the people who were used to your scattered availability. But this is not cruelty. This is healing. This is not pride. This is alignment. This is not abandonment. This is stewardship. You are stewarding your spirit. You are stewarding your focus. You are stewarding the instruction God gave you. You are stewarding the first thing. And when you steward the first thing, your life begins to rearrange. Slowly, perhaps. Quietly, perhaps. But truly, you begin to notice what deserves access and what does not. You begin to notice when fear changes its voice. You begin to notice when comparison tries to enter through inspiration. You begin to notice when guilt tries to dress itself as love. You begin to notice when a good thing is trying to take God's place. You begin to notice when your peace is warning you before your mind has words. That is discernment returning. And discernment is one of the signs that order is being restored. Not suspicion, not paranoia, not judging everyone. Discernment, the quiet knowing of what belongs and what does not. The ability to sense when something is assigned and when it is only loud. The wisdom to know when to move and when to wait. The strength to say no without hatred. The humility to say yes without needing the whole map. That is what God is rebuilding in you. And this is why the next part matters. Because once things are dropped, you must understand who you become in divine order. You are not only releasing weight, you are recovering identity. You are becoming the kind of person who can carry what used to intimidate you. The kind of person who can stay steady when pressure rises. The kind of person who can walk through open doors without letting fear become the leader. The kind of person who can remain hidden without calling it rejection. The kind of person who can be blessed without being broken by the blessing. The kind of person who can hear God's voice and obey before comparison, guilt, or fear talk you out of it. That is where this is going. Not just release, commissioning. Not just dropping what was heavy, becoming who you were being prepared to be. Because God is not stripping things from you to leave you empty. He is making room. Room for clarity. Room for strength. Room for peace. Room for assignment. Room for the version of you that can finally live without being ruled by everything that used to scatter you. So let this be the final truth of this part. You are not losing yourself by dropping what is out of order. You are finding yourself. You are not becoming less loving by releasing false responsibility. You are becoming more honest. You are not becoming less spiritual by caring about your mental clarity. You are becoming whole. You are not becoming behind by slowing down to obey. You are returning to the only timing that can carry your purpose. God's timing, God's order, God's first thing. And as you enter the next part, understand this. The release was not the end. The release was the clearing. Now comes the rebuilding. Now comes the identity. Now comes the sacred understanding of who you become when the first thing returns to first place. Because when order comes back, you do not simply feel better. You become different, steadier, clearer, quieter inside, harder to manipulate, less hungry for approval, more sensitive to God, more faithful in the hidden place, more prepared for the door. And that is why everything had to be dropped. Not to punish you, to prepare you, not to empty you, to reorder you, not to delay you, to bring you back into the version of yourself that can finally walk through the next door without carrying the old disorder into the new room. And that is what God is doing now. He is not trying to take you backward. He is trying to make sure you do not carry old disorder into a new room, because a new room does not automatically create a new life if the old pattern is still sitting on the throne. A new opportunity can still feel heavy if fear is leading you. A new relationship can still feel unsafe if old wounds are interpreting everything. A new season can still feel confusing if comparison is still measuring your pace. A new door can still become another burden if false responsibility keeps making you carry what God never assigned. So God is not only preparing the door, He is preparing the person who will walk through it. That person is you, not the scattered version of you that tries to be everything to everyone, not the anxious version of you that asks fear for permission, not the exhausted version of you that confuses pressure with purpose, not the wounded version of you that keeps calling hiddenness rejection, not the old version of you that believed being behind meant being forgotten. The ordered version of you, the gathered version, the clearer version, the version that can stand still without feeling useless, the version that can move forward without needing applause, the version that can say no without hatred, the version that can say yes without panic, the version that can be misunderstood and still remain obedient, the version that can carry peace without apologizing for it. That is who is coming forward now. And I need you to understand this deeply. When order returns, you do not become less spiritual. You become more whole. You do not become less loving. You become more truthful. You do not become less available because you are cold. You become less available to confusion because your assignment matters. You do not become slower because you are afraid. You become steadier because you are no longer rushing from comparison. You do not become quiet because you are weak. You become quiet because your spirit no longer needs to argue with every voice that doubts you. This is the identity shift. You are not just dropping weight. You are recovering who you were before the weight taught you to live divided. And some of you have forgotten that version of yourself. You have forgotten what it feels like to wake up with a clean center. You have forgotten what it feels like to make a decision without checking it against everyone else's opinion. You have forgotten what it feels like to pray without performing. You have forgotten what it feels like to rest without guilt. You have forgotten what it feels like to begin without needing perfection. You have forgotten what it feels like to hear God and trust the instruction before fear builds a courtroom around it. But God has not forgotten. He remembers the version of you that still exists underneath the noise. He remembers the sensitivity that has been buried under survival. He remembers the courage that has been hidden under disappointment. He remembers the fire that has been covered by exhaustion. He remembers the clarity that has been fogged by years of pressure. He remembers the voice inside you that used to believe before pain taught you to expect less. And He is not calling you back to who you were in a childish way. He is calling you forward into who you are now becoming. Wiser, deeper, humbler, stronger, more discerning, more anchored, more able to carry blessing without losing yourself. That is the difference. Before, you may have wanted the door because you wanted proof. Now, God is forming you to walk through the door with purpose. Before, you may have wanted success because you wanted to silence the people who doubted you. Now, God is forming you to carry success without becoming controlled by the people watching. Before, you may have wanted relationship because you were tired of feeling alone. Now, God is forming you to love from wholeness instead of hunger. Before, you may have wanted visibility because hiddenness felt like rejection. Now, God is forming you to be seen without needing visibility to define your worth. That is order. Order does not only rearrange your schedule, it rearranges your identity. And this is why the first thing had to return to first place. Because your life cannot be built around fear and still feel like peace. It cannot be built around comparison and still feel like purpose. It cannot be built around false responsibility and still feel like freedom. It cannot be built around noise and still feel like divine clarity. Something had to shift at the center, and now that it is shifting, you must learn how to live from the new center. This is where you become the seer again. Not someone who is suspicious of everything, not someone who lives in paranoia, not someone who turns every small thing into a dramatic message. A true seer is someone who can perceive what is out of order without becoming consumed by it. You are learning to notice when something is off before it destroys your peace. You are learning to sense when a door has no grace on it, even if it looks impressive. You are learning to recognize when a person's access is draining what God is trying to build. You are learning to discern the difference between conviction and shame, between urgency and panic, between assignment and pressure. This is part of your identity. You were never meant to live blind to what your spirit can perceive, but your perception must be purified by order. Because when you are wounded, you may call fear discernment. When you are anxious, you may call suspicion wisdom. When you are exhausted, you may call avoidance peace. But when order returns, your sight becomes cleaner. You see without spiraling. You sense without panicking. You notice without making everything about fear. You perceive, then you bring it to God. That is the seer in divine order. And you are also becoming the cycle breaker. Because this scattered way of living did not begin with you. Some of you come from generations where exhaustion was normal, where peace was rare, where people survived by carrying too much, where boundaries were called disrespect, where silence was used as punishment, where love was mixed with control, where everyone reacted but very few people healed. So when you choose order, you are not only making a personal decision, you are interrupting a pattern. You are saying, the confusion stops here. The overgiving stops here. The fear-led decisions stop here. The addiction to chaos stops here. The need to be needed in order to feel valuable stops here. The habit of calling survival a personality stops here. This does not mean you become perfect. It means you become conscious. It means you no longer agree to repeat what wounded you just because it is familiar. It means you stop handing the next season the same disorder that damaged the last one. That is holy work, quiet work, deep work, work that may not get applause from people, but it changes the atmosphere of your life. And you are also becoming the builder, because once order returns, you stop only surviving fires and you begin building foundations. You begin building rhythms that protect peace. You begin building boundaries that guard purpose. You begin building a mind that is not constantly ruled by emergency. You begin building relationships where love does not require self-erasure. You begin building work that flows from assignment, not performance. You begin building a life that has enough inner structure to hold blessing. A builder understands that height depends on foundation. A builder does not despise unseen work. A builder knows that what is underground determines what can stand above ground. And this is why God did not rush some things in your life. He was not ignoring your prayers. He was strengthening what would hold the answer when it came. There are blessings that require foundation. There are doors that require emotional stability. There are relationships that require healed patterns. There are assignments that require discipline. There are platforms that require humility. There are financial shifts that require stewardship. There are spiritual gifts that require character. And God loves you too much to give height to a foundation that is not ready to carry it. So if you felt delayed, Understand this. Some delays were not denial. Some delays were foundation. Some delays were God protecting you from receiving something before your inner structure could hold it. Some delays were mercy disguised as waiting. This is the wisdom of Joseph. Joseph had a dream long before he had a position. He saw something before he could carry it. He had a glimpse of destiny before he had the maturity, the environment, the authority, or the timing to steward it. And then his life seemed to move in the opposite direction. A pit, a betrayal, a false accusation, a prison, a forgotten season. If Joseph had measured his life by the visible timeline, he could have said, "I am behind." He could have said, "The dream failed." He could have said, "God showed me something and then abandoned me." He could have said, "Everyone else is moving while I am trapped." But the hidden truth was this: the dream was not dead. The dream was being prepared for. Joseph was not merely waiting for the palace. He was being formed into the kind of person who could enter the palace without becoming destroyed by it. The pit did not erase the dream. The prison did not cancel the calling. The delay did not remove God's hand. The hidden years were not wasted. They were forming discernment. They were forming wisdom. They were forming endurance. They were forming humility. They were forming the ability to interpret, lead, manage, forgive, and carry authority without letting bitterness poison the assignment. And when the appointed time came, it did not take God long to move Joseph from hiddenness into position. But the position would have crushed him if the hidden years had not formed him. Chosen one, hear this. Your hidden years are not automatically wasted years. Your painful years are not automatically empty years. Your waiting years are not automatically proof that you are behind. If God has been forming character, deepening discernment, stripping false identity, teaching you boundaries, healing your reactions, purifying your motives, and bringing order to your inner life, then something has been happening, even when people did not see it, even when you did not know how to explain it, even when you felt like your life was moving slowly, even when the outside did not match the promise inside. Joseph teaches us that being unseen does not mean being unprepared, and preparation can look like delay to people who only understand public arrival. This is why you must stop cursing the place where God formed you. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it was lonely. Yes, it was confusing. Yes, some people misunderstood you. Yes, some doors did not open when you wanted them to. Yes, some prayers seemed to echo in silence. Yes, some seasons felt longer than you thought you could survive. But you are still here, and the fact that you are still here means the story is not finished. You are not behind in the way fear told you. You are being brought back into divine order so you can recognize the appointed time when it comes. Because the door is not the only thing that matters. Recognition matters. You can miss a door not because it was closed, but because your mind was too noisy to recognize it. You can mishandle a blessing not because it was wrong, but because your inner life was too disordered to steward it. You can reject peace not because it was absent, but because chaos had become familiar. You can delay obedience not because God was unclear, but because fear was louder. That is why this whole message has been about order. Order prepares recognition. Order prepares stewardship. Order prepares obedience. Order prepares peace. Order prepares the version of you who can walk forward without dragging old disorder into new grace. So now, this must become practical inside your spirit. From this moment forward, you need the order before overflow practice. Not as a ritual to impress anyone, not as a burden, not as another task to add pressure, as an inner way of returning. Each day, before you give your best attention to the noise, let your spirit ask one question. What is first today? Not what is loud, not what is urgent, not what is impressive, not what will make people approve. What is first today? Some days, the first thing will be prayer. Some days, the first thing will be rest. Some days, the first thing will be one honest decision. Some days, the first thing will be refusing to reopen an old wound. Some days, the first thing will be doing the simple work in front of you. Some days, the first thing will be silence. Some days, the first thing will be courage. Some days, the first thing will be forgiveness. Some days, the first thing will be not answering the thing that keeps pulling you back into disorder. And after you ask what is first, ask the second question. What is loud but not assigned? Because loud things will always compete for first place. Fear is loud, pressure is loud, comparison is loud, guilt is loud, other people's expectations can be loud, old habits can be loud, unhealed pain can be loud, but loud does not mean first. Loud does not mean God. Loud does not mean assigned. Loud does not mean urgent in the spirit. When you ask what is loud but not assigned, you begin to separate pressure from purpose. You begin to notice the difference between what needs wisdom and what only wants your reaction. You begin to protect your attention from being hijacked by everything that screams. And then ask the third question. What small step proves my yes? Not what giant transformation can I complete today? Not how can I fix my entire life? Not how can I become perfect overnight? What small step proves my yes? Because order grows through faithful steps. A small step can be powerful when it is aligned. A quiet no can change the direction of a season. A simple yes can reopen the place where clarity flows. A moment of surrender can break the authority of an old pattern. A decision made in peace can carry more power than 10 decisions made in panic. This is how you live differently. What is first today? What is loud but not assigned? What small step proves my yes? These 3 questions can bring you back when your mind starts scattering again. They can bring you back when comparison tries to accuse you. They can bring you back when guilt tries to rule you. They can bring you back when fear tries to call itself wisdom. They can bring you back when the first thing begins to get buried again. And yes, you may need to return many times. That does not mean you failed. It means you are learning a new order. Do not condemn yourself for needing to return. Return quickly. Return gently. Return honestly. Return without drama. Return without punishing yourself. Return because God is still there. Return because the first thing still belongs first. Return because divine order is not maintained by shame. It is maintained by relationship, surrender, and steady obedience. This is where the final shift happens. You stop trying to become ordered so God will love you. You become ordered because you are loved. You stop obeying to earn a place. You obey because you already belong to the one who is calling you. You stop releasing things because you are afraid of punishment. You release them because your purpose deserves protection. You stop saying no because you are bitter. You say no because your yes has become sacred. You stop waiting for every person to understand. You understand that obedience is sometimes lonely before it becomes fruitful. This is maturity. This is the becoming. This is what hidden seasons were forming in you. The ability to stay with God when no one claps. The ability to keep peace when pressure rises. The ability to release what once felt necessary. The ability to stop calling panic discernment. The ability to honor timing without worshipping delay. The ability to move when God says move and wait when God says wait. The ability to recognize that you were not dangerously behind in worth. You were dangerously close to building the next season on an old disorder. And God interrupted you because He loves you too much to let you do that. Receive that. The interruption was love. The warning was love. The discomfort was love. The correction was love. The call to drop everything was love. The return of the first thing was love. God was not humiliating you. He was recovering you. He was not exposing you to shame you. He was revealing what needed to be healed. He was not calling you late. He was calling you back. And now, before this closes, let this become real inside you. Without moving your body, imagine yourself standing again before that doorway. This time, the weights are no longer in your hands. The measuring sticks are on the ground. The bags that were never yours are no longer on your shoulders. The voices are quieter. The room inside you is clearer. And in front of you, there is a path. Not the whole map, not every answer, not every detail, just the next step. And beside that step is the first thing. The instruction God has been bringing back. The thing that belongs first. Imagine it not as a burden, but as a lamp. A small lamp. Steady, quiet, bright enough for the next step. You may have wanted lightning, but God is giving you a lamp. You may have wanted the whole road, but God is showing you where to place your next yes. You may have wanted proof for everyone else, but God is giving you peace for your own spirit. Now see yourself choosing that lamp, not carrying every fear, not dragging every comparison, not asking every old voice for permission, just choosing the light of the first thing. Let your inner agreement say this: I return to order. Let it settle. I return to order, not because I am afraid, because I am called, not because I am ashamed, because I am loved, not because I am late, because I am being prepared, not because I have all the answers, because I trust the one who gives the next step. Now let every scattered part of you hear that. The part of you that has been tired, the part of you that has been comparing, the part of you that has been afraid, the part of you that has been carrying too much, the part of you that has been asking, did I miss it? The part of you that has been wondering if God moved on. Let all of those parts hear the truth. You are being gathered, you are being reordered, you are being called back into the center. You are not outside God's reach. You are not too late for mercy. You are not too scattered to be restored. You are not too tired to be strengthened. You are not too hidden to be seen. You are not too delayed to be used. You are not too wounded to become wise. You are not too quiet to carry authority. You are not too misunderstood to be chosen. Now, receive this prayer over your life. Father, bring this chosen one back into order. Not the kind of order that creates pressure, but the kind of order that creates peace. Not the kind of order that makes them perform, but the kind of order that helps them hear. Restore the first thing. Bring back the instruction they have been stepping over. Bring back the clarity that has been buried under fear. Bring back the focus that has been scattered by comparison. Bring back the peace that has been drained by false responsibility. Bring back the courage that has been delayed by perfectionism. Bring back the quiet yes that got covered by noise. Where shame has been speaking, let truth speak louder. Where fear has been interpreting the future, let faith rise again. Where old voices have accused their timing, let divine timing become steady inside them. Where they have carried what was never assigned, teach them how to release it without guilt. Where they have confused exhaustion with obedience, teach them the rhythm of holy strength. Where they have called themselves behind, show them where they were being formed. Where they have felt forgotten, remind them that hidden does not mean abandoned. Where they have felt too late, remind them that appointed time is not controlled by panic. Let the field be honored. Let the foundation be strengthened. Let the hidden years be redeemed. Let the first thing return to first place. And let everything that is not assigned lose its authority over their attention. Give them discernment without suspicion. Give them peace without passivity. Give them courage without recklessness. Give them humility without self-hatred. Give them focus without pressure. Give them boundaries without bitterness. Give them obedience without fear. Let their yes become clean. Let their no become sacred. Let their waiting become fruitful. Let their movement become aligned. Let their mind become clearer. Let their spirit become steadier. Let their heart become whole. And when the next door opens, do not let them enter it carrying the old disorder. Prepare them to carry blessing without being crushed by it. Prepare them to receive visibility without being controlled by it. Prepare them to walk in love without losing themselves. Prepare them to serve without self-abandonment. Prepare them to build what will last. Prepare them to recognize peace when it comes. Prepare them to trust your voice more than the noise around them. And I sense the Father saying, come back into order. I am not finished with you. Come back into order. I did not bring you this far to abandon you in confusion. Come back into order. The first thing is still waiting, and my grace is still here. Come back into order. You are not late in my hands. Come back into order. You are not behind, my love. Come back into order. You are being gathered for what comes next. Let that be sealed in your spirit. You are not behind God's love. You are not behind His awareness. You are not behind His ability to restore. You are not behind His mercy. You are being called back into order. And from this point forward, when the old panic rises, do not agree with it so quickly. When comparison says, you are behind, answer with order. When fear says, you are not ready, answer with trust. When guilt says, you must carry everything, answer with assignment. When noise says, listen to me first, answer with the first thing. When shame says, God is disappointed in you, answer with truth. Correction is not rejection. Order is not punishment. Delay is not abandonment. Hiddenness is not failure. And the first thing belongs first. If this message met you deeply, and if you are choosing to return to divine order, write first thing in the comments. Not for performance, not for appearance, but as a simple marker that you heard what God has been speaking to your spirit. First thing, let it be your declaration. Let it be your reminder. Let it be the line that tells the old disorder, you do not get the center anymore. And if the 7-minute clarity tool mentioned earlier spoke to the part of you that feels mentally foggy, scattered, or ready to support your focus again, you can find the link in the description and the pinned comment. Explore it only if you feel led. Do not move from pressure. Move from discernment, because even the right tool must remain in the right place. God is first. The instruction is first. Order is first. And everything else must serve that, not replace it. Chosen one, this is where the warning becomes a blessing. You were not stopped to be condemned. You were stopped to be recovered. You were not told you were dangerously behind, so you would hate yourself. You were told because God was revealing the exact place where order had to return. And now you know. You know the difference between being late and being out of order. You know why comparison made your timeline feel accused. You know why busyness was not always obedience. You know why fear kept pretending to be preparation. You know why the first thing kept returning. You know why some things had to be dropped. You know why the next season cannot be built on the same disorder that drained the last one. So do not leave this message and return immediately to the noise. Carry one thing with you. The first thing belongs first. Before the pressure, before the comparison, before the panic, before the explanations, before the old guilt, before the fear that wants to rule again. The first thing belongs first. And when you honor that, the path begins to clear. Maybe not all at once. Maybe not in a way everyone can see. But inside, something becomes steady. And steady is sacred. Steady is powerful. Steady is how foundations are built. Steady is how Joseph survives the prison without losing the dream. Steady is how David honors the field before the crown. Steady is how Moses learns the wilderness before the assignment. Steady is how a chosen one stops being ruled by every loud thing and starts walking with God again. You are becoming steady. You are becoming ordered. You are becoming clear. You are becoming someone who can carry what you once only prayed for. And that is why this moment matters. This is not the end of your story. This is the return of your center. This is the clearing of the room. This is the recovery of the first thing. This is the place where shame loses its voice and order begins to speak. So go forward slowly if you must. Go forward quietly if you must. Go forward with trembling if you must. But go forward in order. Do not drag what God told you to drop. Do not rebuild what God dismantled. Do not crown what God removed from the center. Do not let fear interpret the next instruction. Do not let comparison measure the next season. Do not let guilt steal the peace God is restoring. And do not call yourself behind when God is calling you back. You are called back, back to peace, back to clarity, back to obedience, back to the first thing, back to divine order. And from that place, you will know what to do next. Not everything, the next thing, and sometimes